Hello everyone, it's Karen Davidson here from Academic Skills, and this presentation is called Organising and Structuring Information for Assessments. We'll look at the conventions and structure of your annotated bibliography task, and also look at the structure of essays and how to develop coherent and cohesive texts. This is just to recap the importance of spending time to go over your assessment with task analysis. So assessment tasks generally offer instructions about the content and the form or presentation of the assignment. So remember to consider things like word counts in your time management and how you would divide that amongst the subtasks within the assessment. Once you've got the assignment task worked out, it's time to move on to planning the assignment. So a great tip is to use 3 coloured highlighters. You might like to use one for the general topic, one for the focus or any limiting words, one for the task words. So you have additional information on your Interact site too for this subject on how to complete this annotated bibliography task. So make sure you look at what's required there. So this is some of that information, and an annotation is a note. And the biblio in bibliography is just Latin for book. So this means that we need to write a note on texts like books, magazines, journal articles, online and hard copy, and websites and fact sheets. So you'll need to include a reference list entry in APA style. So use the models in the academic referencing tool, or ART, or the APA referencing summary on the referencing page for models of different source types. So you can find those resources and more on the referencing page. Go to the student portal, learning resources, academic skills, and then referencing. The academic referencing tool has now been updated for the 7th edition of APA style. And you can also use the referencing summary and any of the other resources on this site as well. You can also ask questions on the Academic Skills Advisor forum and just go to the Study Success tab in Interact 2. That's if you get stuck, you can ask questions there. So an annotated bibliography includes for the contents and structure, where you found the text, so the citation, what you found, so a description or a summary, and what value it has. Some critical thinking about the text itself. So for the summary, do not copy and paste, therefore plagiarize. Use paraphrasing skills here. So we've gone through those different things that we can use, like changing the order and vocabulary and sentence constructions, that kind of thing. So according to these instructions, if you see down the bottom, the summary should take up about half the word count for each of your annotations. This summary is then followed by a reflection, an evaluation of the source and its usefulness. The evaluation or assessment of the source could include where was the source published, by whom, is there bias, and your goal here is to determine how credible and reliable the source is. How well was the research conducted? And then think about the usefulness. How can the information be of use to you, your particular topic? And in your annotation, you could also pull out quotes and any other facts and statistics when writing the annotation to describe it and to evaluate it as well. Remember, when we're thinking critically, it involves asking questions or evaluating information. So what do you already know about the topic? But there also might be some further questions that you could ask the text when reading critically. And so we could go back to the resource that we talked about last time. We're also going to be looking at writing structure. So broadly speaking, in writing structure, we're going to think about how to incorporate academic conventions to ensure our meaning is clear. We use our knowledge of grammar to build the text from the word level up and from the text level down. So more broadly, when you are writing an assessment, creating an outline or plan of our essay or report is a key step in organising our ideas and making the text coherent. So some text features in the structure are conventions, and others depend entirely on the field or the topic that you're investigating. So we'll look particularly at the text and paragraph structures in this presentation. So the structure plays an important role in conveying meaning to the reader, our marker. We need to make our points clear to the reader and be consistent. So you might already have some ideas about the purposes or conventions of these parts of an essay. So I want you to think about those as we go through. Reports also have an introduction, body, conclusion. However, the function of the body is to present factual analysis of data or present the current status of an issue or phenomenon, which then might be followed by discussion, recommendations, that kind of thing. It might also include evidence followed by conclusions rather than having the argument woven into body paragraphs. Then the evidence might then lead to the conclusions, which is more inductive reasoning rather than deductive, which happens in essays. Reports in the structure might also include things like an executive summary or an abstract. It might have a table of contents, headings and subheadings, numbering, diagrams, tables, and there might be things like complex tables and data collected in the appendices at the end. Lab reports, research reports, case study reports vary in structure to present different kinds of evidence and analysis. So make sure you pay close attention to your subject outline if you're asked to do any of those sorts of things. So this is for an essay, and notice that each of the structural elements of the text perform a particular function, and that together these elements will allow you to show your reader, your marker, that you have addressed all the elements of the assessment task. So the introduction shows that you have understood the question and the context surrounding it. And it also shows your reader what your main point is in addressing the question. And the body or the discussion paragraphs provide the evidence or analysis, both of which indicate to the reader how well you have answered the question. And the conclusion brings together your main points, showing how well each point helps to, as a whole, answer the assignment question. And then at the end, finally, the reference list indicates that you have demonstrated academic integrity in your work, and we know how important that is. So we're going to look at writing essays now. So first of all, make sure that you are aware of what the assignment question is asking you to do. So if you're not sure, look up the instruction words, ask your lecturer, make an appointment with an academic skills advisor to ensure that you're on the right track. And planning is essential so that you avoid common mistakes. The plans help ensure that arguments are relevant to the task, ensure that arguments are clear and logically ordered, also ensure evidence is ready to support each point that you're presenting. You can also check important information has not been omitted when you can see it as a bare bones structure, as a plan. And planning also helps devote writing time to communicating ideas rather than having to come up with them at the same time. So you've thought about the context as a whole and where it might fit together. This is a planning document that you can find on the Academic Skills Study Guides and Videos page. So you might like to access that. That's something that you could use when you come to write essays to give you some kind of idea for structure. And here is an example of a student plan. It's an English literature one, but it outlines the structure and content of the task. So it's an effective use of your time and energy to set out each paragraph before you start. It gives you a focus of your time, your research and your writing particularly, so that you stay on track and answer the assignment question. And research is integral to writing an essay. It will take likely over half of your overall assignment time. So you should gather a wide range of relevant information in order to share an informed argument with your reader. Creating key terms from the assessment task description will enable you to save time in your search phase by making your search returns more relevant to the assignment. We learned about this in our previous session, but if you would like further assistance with that, check out the library's guides on research or make an appointment with an academic skills advisor. I've also got some resources with links listed at the end as well. As we have discussed previously, while searching for relevant information, we need to read quickly to get an idea of what they are talking about. So use these strategies to get a quick overview of a text and work out whether it could be useful. Scan to find specific information within a text. When we've found something useful, we need to read it more thoroughly. So seeking the answers to your questions will make your reading more purposeful and active. So introductions, here's where you begin to record and communicate your argument. The introduction is your first point of contact with the reader. The first consideration the marker might have is, has the student seen the point of this task and do they understand? So by giving a small amount of background, context at the beginning of your introduction, raising the main issues of the question in a concise and straightforward way, you can show your skills in exposing the implications of the question. Secondly, introduce in this paragraph your position or stance on the question. And this is sometimes called a thesis statement. Using formal academic language, let the reader know what you think. What argument you're making is made clear, usually in one sentence here. And this is where you make a position, not just announce a subject. And number 3, preview the main points that you're going to make in your essay. Each paragraph in your body, your discussion paragraphs, contains one main point. Know what these points are and share these from the start in your introduction. A successful introduction allows the reader to know and prepare for exactly what they will read and as they travel throughout the paper. It's like a roadmap. It shows the major points of argument and the order that the reader will encounter these points in their reading of your work. So this simple introduction outlines the processes talked about on the previous slide. So we've got during the 20th century, the world's population tripled while water consumption grew 7-fold. As a result, in almost every area of the world today, there is a water problem. While the cases of the problem vary, most relate to human activity. Mismanagement and profligate use of available water supplies are a major problem, as are pollution and privatisation of water supplies. Okay, so if you can have a look there and just see how those orange numbers apply to the points that I'm making on the previous slide. So the first and second sentence, the number 1 in orange, introduces the topic and then tells us what's important about it, that almost every part of the world is facing a water crisis. So why should we care? Because every part of the world is facing a water crisis. Okay, the third sentence, or number 2, states the general position that the essay will argue, that human activity is the cause of this crisis. The fourth listed there as the fourth sentence listed there as number 3 in orange expands on this general position by listing the major types of human activity that will be explored, that is mass management, waste and pollution. So those 3 ideas will be discussed within the body paragraphs. So in between the introduction and the conclusion are discussion paragraphs, and we'll talk about those in a minute. I just wanted to show you to compare the introduction and the conclusion. So the conclusion is the last paragraph of the essay. The conclusion must provide a focus point for what has come before. It reinforces your position, repeats your argument, and restates the main points that you have made. Most of all, our conclusion should wrap up the essay, allowing the reader to realise that they've just read a well-researched and thought-out argument, that worthwhile discussion has been shared. They don't necessarily have to agree with it, but it's a discussion that has been shared and put forth, and it gives the sense that now ending closure is upon them, and it might also point to the future. What are the implications now? So hopefully the reader then can feel that they have been taught something and their thinking has been engaged. And so if we think about what the water problem was before in that introduction, this is the comparable from the same text, the conclusion. So this conclusion reinforces the introduction. It summarises the main points covered in the essay and restates the author's position as made clear in the introduction. It also makes a statement about the future. There is nothing new in this conclusion. It both backs up the introduction and reinforces the points and evidence presented in the essay's body. So the author's position is that human activity and management of water is the problem with water supply. And that's been the point throughout the essay, stayed on that topic throughout. So our discussion paragraphs, and that's what we're going to talk about now. What makes a good discussion? We need relevant content to be on task. Our structure and language need to be clear. We demonstrate that through some academic conventions. Academic writing also requires discussion with evidence, so the reader doesn't have to just take our word for it. It's based on understanding of authoritative and reliable ideas. Further, it needs to be communicated in language that is clear and concise. We don't want to frustrate our reader. So every discussion paragraph should have these elements. You might have heard of this acronym, P, like a green P before. It stands for point, evidence, analysis. Alternatively, people might also use PEAL or TEAL. And that's including a link that's also provided either to the assignment question as a whole or to the next stage or paragraph in the discussion. There's some options there. So the P in the P model stands for point, aka the topic sentence. It tells the reader the point of the paragraph and takes them to the next stage in the argument. The evidence supports the point, explains, elaborates, exemplifies, draws on literature relevant to the discipline. And analysis explains, interprets, evaluates the evidence, ties the paragraph together, and also can link to the next point. So it's your value add or interpretation for the reader. This is significant because, tell the reader why, okay? So you might like to include, for example, what the practical implications are for agricultural practice, for example. Your writing also needs to have unity and cohesion. So unity means agreement, doesn't it? It's on the same thing. And cohesion means working well together. So in a paragraph, this means the ideas flow logically within the paragraph and the text as a whole. So there are some words or phrases that give us clues to where they might lie in the order of things. So the task here is to think about these devices and see how you can reorder the sentences to make this paragraph logical and cohesive. So if you want to have a go at that, how about you pause the video and see what order you might put these sentences in. Okay, how'd you go? There might be some variation with the last couple of sentences, but generally speaking, we can go 4, 6, 3, 1, 5, 2. And next we're going to look at what language features provided clues as to the order of the sentences. So what words or phrases assist in the reordering. So based on this example, I want you to think and generalise about ways that we can create cohesion in paragraphs. That might be reference words, repetition, substitution of terms, that kind of thing. So paragraph unity is created by a consistent field or a focus topic. So in this case, we've got agriculture or rural production. You can see that in the bold text. That's how we get a unity. We can also note the use of the adjective this, used in sentence 2 to refer to the urgent problem from sentence 1. So that's using internal reference in language that points us forwards or backwards within the text to be able to demonstrate that we're on the same unified topic here. And working well together, it's cohesive. So indicating repetition or substitution. So we've got problems in sentence 4 and problem in orange. 6, facts and fact in blue, rural in green, lack of irrigation and without irrigation in red, agricultural production and crops and production in bold. You can see we're similar things that we're going through, we're logically going from one to the next. And also that dryness in sentence 4 relates to rainfall in sentence 5. So these sorts of things might assist you in the way that you construct your own paragraphs. Think about how they come together as a whole. Now, there are a range of different resources on this topic that you might like to use that are available to you at Charles Sturt on the student portal. And thanks for listening today.